Hey everyone, this is Misery Loves Company, a social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to come and share their work with us. And it's fucking Friday again, guys, so let's get rolling here. First up tonight is Cletus Crow. Cletus, your
Hi there.
book for phallic symbols is up for pre-order as of today, right?
Yes, yes. Thanks to Jeff, as always. Thank you, Jeff, so much.
And
So I'm gonna read I guess I'm gonna flip through it. I'll read three random ones. I might have read one or two here before, but it's been a while. Um, when I was, compiling the book. So I'll get started with my first one. This is poem written after watching Tetsuo the Iron Man. I'm becoming a man, which is to say disfigured beyond recognition. My penis is a sewage pipe. There are pieces of metal in my brain called shame. They attract pain like a magnet. Silverware in the socket tickles. Tenderness shocks me. Roses burst from your chest, and I watch them die. Let's make a dead new world. We'll rust this world into the dust of the universe, you scream like a supervillain. I can't get enough sex with hate. I'm becoming a gun, which is to say an agent of dramatic change. This one's some drunk guy. Want to go in for beer so bad. Nude afternoon with Nashville legs. Red hair set pillowcase ablaze. Couldn't get thing up, pop Viagra. Kinda blue stare through feet first, striding past oak thick roots. Down sidewalk man huddled plastic bags within or red blue cans. So know this too urban for happy. And want to leave bad all them. Farm East Tennessee, masturbate and peace for once, live alone, future corpse, our arguments real, violent, the thought don't sting, but feels good. Feel it to come, enter, drink, drown, sorrow stagnated. My sweet and understanding bitch even bought her best type cow, best type grapes, now Jesus blood. Ain't forgiven, anal retentive, ol' ass, can't believe she wanted me those innumerable months ago. This is called the masochistic slug. If you need a shoulder to cry on, oh baby, yeah, just like that, it burns. That's all. Thank y'all. Pre-order the book. Thank y'all for listening to me.
Cletus, I'm glad you read the masochistic slug poem because that's one of my favorite like comic poems from the book. First of all, Cletus, I want to say I just want to reiterate if you're watching this on YouTube, go to Twitter. We've posted a link on Twitter. You can pre-order the book now. And it comes out on June 7th, right?
Yeah, thanks a lot for plugging it.
Yeah,
Very much appreciate it.
it's a fantastic book. I love the cover design. I had the like pleasure of being able to read the whole book and blurb it, and it's a phenomenal piece of writing. And speaking of the poems that you like read today, I think this serves as a really good kind of sampler for the book, even though you read three relatively brief poems, because it gets at the fact that like many of the poems in this book are like the first one, they're like mythic and profound, and they're full of like vivid imagery, and they're full of this sense of like real like wonderful beautiful dramatic scope. But also you have ones with that sense of like interpersonal intimacy and real like the kind of mundane poems in the way mundane and romantic poems in the way the second poem was, and also some like fucking legitimately hilariously funny poems like the masochistic slug poem. Like the way that you're this book is like a concept album, right? More so even than most books of poetry are. Like you have a single theme, which is right there in the title, like the phallic symbol thing, and your ability to iterate on that in like an innumerable number of ways. Like you go in so many different directions with that concept. And so much of it is so profound and so effective and so surprising and so unpredictable and so like ultimately beautiful. So what I'm saying is everyone, if you don't if have a copy of the book coming, maybe you should fucking order one. All right. Thank you, Cletus.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the kind words. Thanks, Jeff, and thanks, Tyler, for the good podcast interview, and thanks, everybody. Bye bye.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thanks for reading. And our boy Johnny Hollywood is up next. John, it's been a while.
It's yeah. Yeah, it's been a while. Just because I've been writing so much, is why it's taken so long.
That's what it is. You've had no, you've been secluded in your little room writing for 4 weeks straight, right? You
That's
must have
true.
produced hundreds of thousands of words. How many novels have you written in that time, John?
Like seven or eight. I it's hard work. I made a new Bible. I call it the Bible. I just call it the Bible. It's a public domain work. So I'm just republishing it on Amazon. Yeah. So this one, here's a story. It's called World's Biggest Party. Because that's what I do. I go to the biggest parties in the fucking world. All right. What do girls do? Do they work stable jobs and go out on weekends with all their friends, walking through town to the train, looking so cool like they always do, and come home and have something nice for dinner? Do they spend their evenings in their bedrooms wearing socks and sweatpants, still wrapped in warm coats, lying across their bed, hanging out with their friend who brings over a bottle of wine, door closed with the lights on? What do they do? Do they watch TV? Do they try on different clothes, spray on new perfumes, brush makeup onto each other's faces, and look at themselves in the mirror, looking so pretty? Do they fuck? Secretly. Just for fun? Totally unseriously. Do girls get together in bedrooms all over the country, smile and say, hey, check this out, and fuck each other so casually they come between lines of a poem too ethereal for me to understand? Do girls walk out in the middle of the night on a weeknight and creep around streetlights and slide into back alleys to smoke meth and break into acid-lit basements and pull their lover's hair out during chemsex? And do girls bite down on a towel when they shove chunks of broken glass into their perfect thighs? And do they lay their heads in each other's laps on the long, long trade ride home, reeking of lavender and vomit, the most delicate, sparkling noses slightly upturned, gushing blood all over their dresses, the seats all the way down the aisle, gushing out the train car door into the dark black tunnels, just like the abandoned ones where the trains don't come through no more? Those are the ones that make for good spots for her and her friends in their fur coats and their good shoes to hang around and shoot heroin and kiss. And when they get home at 5 in the morning, looking like ghosts, do they hug a stuffed animal and fall asleep in their clothes? It's New Year's Day in America, a simple computer error, but one that should have been a zero, and all our own bombs fall down on top of us. The antiseptic shock troops wipe down every inch of their Panzer armor with isopropyl wet wipes before, during, and after every operation. They keep the world clean through their hard work and determination. Just the other day, I saw a squad take a fire hose and clean a homeless man away. They washed his homeless skin away to the homeless muscle, rinsed the homeless muscle down to the homeless bone, sanitized the homeless bone into homeless dust, and vacuumed up what was left. That homeless man once asked me if I had a couple bucks, and even though I was trying my best to kindly ignore him, he persisted. Hey, excuse me, sir. I'm really hungry. Do you have a couple bucks? Sorry, I don't carry cash on me. Could you buy me a sandwich then? There's a store right here. Come on, man, please. I was so happy when the shock troop cleaned him. I immediately went home and scrubbed my toilet out of respect for those brave men and women who are actually making a difference in our community. I do respect the antiseptic shock troops, but I also fear them. I know it's just a matter of time before they find my soot-covered hidden Jews of the soul, and when they do, they'll cleanse away the stowaways along with every other part of me. But for now, I'll just scrub my toilet until that judgment day comes. It's doomsday in America. I left the oven on when I left for work, and by now I've pumped enough methane to blow up the entire country with the strike of a match. On Friday, I go out, meet someone new. I say, let's get out of this place. I know a good bar around the corner. Drink and kiss in a dark corner. Let's go back to my place. Fuck, go to bed. Wake up. Fuck. You want breakfast? Yeah. I know a good cafe around the corner. Drink and kiss in a bright corner. Let's go to the park. You ever see a little bird on the sidewalk and you walk towards it and it gets nervous and it runs away down the sidewalk on those thin little legs? Why do they do that? I think it's just for show because at a certain point they fly away. But why don't they fly away to begin with? Little birds always make a big show of running down the sidewalk. Do you like me? We got to go to the store. I can't be out in the sun this sober. It's not even noon yet. Our picnic basket's packed with booze and cigarettes, and I'm blowing smoke into baby strollers just to make you laugh. You want to see a party trick? I lean for a kiss. We touch lips. I blow into her mouth as hard as I can. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. She's hitting me. I grab her around the waist and roll her in the grass. Oh, hey, what you got going on? Nothing much. Liquor on her breath. Just hanging out in the park with some dork. No way. I'm doing the same thing. 2:00. Back in the bedroom, pull her pants down. Wowza, that's not a penis. Poke around inquisitively like a man who does not understand what a woman is. Both hands full. So, you call these breasts? Intriguing. I'll have to run some tests. Squeeze as hard as I can, try to rip them off. Jeez Louise, they're on there good, huh? 5:00, time to leave. I tell her I'm on the way to the world's biggest party. She tells me she's going to some house show, implies I should come, go out of my way to seem oblivious. Well, have fun. I'm going to the biggest party in the world. 11, hanging around, doing massive party stuff. Hey, how's the world's biggest party? Massive. How's the house show? Pretty cool. There's a rooftop and everything. Damn, I wish I could have been invited. I wish I knew someone who was there who could invite me. I've been trying to invite you. Come here. Well, I don't know. I'm at the world's biggest party, smoking the world's biggest cigar, sitting in the world's biggest rocking chair. But maybe I'll pull through. It's midnight. Get to the house show. Show's over. Everyone's just hanging around. She's fucked up. Sitting on a couch outside, sitting next to her, talking to some chuds. Yeah. I make conversation. Nice to meet you, says one. We've met before, I say, at the reading. Wait, really? I don't remember you. Yes, you do. Are you fucking with me? No. She jumps off the roof. Oh, fuck. Oh, wait. No, she didn't. She's just on the fire escape, head in her arms, trying to will herself out of being too fucked up. It's okay. I'd rather be here than talking to the chuds. You saved me, she says. We're leaving the party. You saved me. You're my hero. Yeah, you hungry? I'm so hungry. Eating chicken over rice on a street barricade. Eating chicken over rice on a street barricade. That guy totally dismissed you. I don't care. That's just how he is. You know him? Yeah, we have history. Oh, that's cool. But fuck him. You're with me tonight. Lucky me. Lucky you. We kiss. You know, she says, everything I've ever wanted. All I've had to do is want it. Think about it, and I get it. No shit. No shit. One day I wanted a 6-figure job, thought about it, and I got one. Worked there for a week, hated it, quit, got $4,000. How do you do that? You're some kind of genius or something? That's just how it works. The hard part isn't getting what you want, though. The hard part is figuring out what's worth wanting. Daybirds thrive in the city, but night flyers are nowhere to be found. It's dead silent in the middle of this street. No owls swoop down for mice, no bats fly in big black clouds through tall buildings. Waiting for the train, the subway usually smells like piss, but her perfume smells so nice. More liquor, walk through the park at 3 a.m., back to my place again, in bed, no fucking, just talking. This was fun. I had a good time. Me too, I like this. Sunday morning, 8 a.m. I'm leaving, she says. Goodbye. Goodbye. She's gone. I don't talk to her. I don't see her. Someone else will take her place next Friday. That's fine. It's devastation in America. I slept through my alarm. Didn't show up to work. Turns out the Big Loser machine only needed one more jammed cog before it broke completely. The world economy has collapsed. And years from now, I'm rocking back in a chair on a front porch overlooking a great yard, humble gardens dotted throughout. Tomatoes here, tulips there. Next to me is my old dog, a bloodhound named Bo. He's half asleep. The sun's just starting to set, but the heat hangs around. In a close-by patch of flowers, just by the gravel walkway, I see a little elf nibbling on the petals of young white daisies. I give Bo a couple scratches on the head. He yawns awake. You see that, buddy? I'm pointing at the elf. Rosy red cheeks, little pointed hat. Couldn't be standing more than 6 inches tall. Bo sees him. I lift up his ear and I whisper, kill him. Before the little elf can finish chewing his mouthful of daisies, Bo's barreling down the porch steps, pounces on him. wraps his teeth around the little elf's neck. He lets out a yelp, but only for a second. Bo shakes him like he would a rattlesnake, snapping his neck. His hat and little pointed shoes go flying in all different directions, and Bo doesn't stop until he's sure he's dead. Bring him here, boy. He drops the elf at my feet. I run his pockets. A vial of fentanyl and the Elliot Roger manifesto. I knew it. I take his limp body and throw it in the elf pit. Hundreds of dead elves with their lollipops and good intentions. Their deaths are finally justified now that I have proof that there really are some bad ones out there. It's Judgment Day in America. A cop gave me a ticket for not wearing a seatbelt. I will carpet bomb every square inch of this country.
John. This is fucking wonderful, John. I love this fucking piece. I, man, I, you're doing something in this piece that you've done in some previous pieces, but I really, in particular, love the execution here, which is like the contrast between these very mundane, really personal, like intimate interpersonal sections and these like broad, like surreal apocalyptic moments. And I love the fact that in this piece, those big apocalyptic moments are single sentences dotted throughout. It's like you give like a sentence to the end of the world, but you give like a page to this intimate, like date between these two individuals, right? And you
Huh.
get at like some kind of emotional reality there, right? Like you get at something that feels psychologically real and feels appropriate for the way that like we establish weight in our lives, especially since we're always kind of living in this kind of apocalyptic fog. It's like, you turn on the TV and there's some news story about how this election will be the last election ever or some bullshit, and then you turn it off and then you go hang out with your friends. And the time you spend with real human beings having these actual authentic interpersonal interactions feel like they have so much more weight. But the way that you've structured this and the way that you've presented it, I think it also makes it funnier, right? Because somehow, like every time the end of the world arrives in this piece, and it arrives 3 or 4 times, it arrives like a punchline. And then you have these moments like with the antiseptic like core and the elves where there's this additional level of like magical realism or surrealism going on here that is like superficially cute but actually deeply cruel by the time you get around to it. It's like, oh, these guys are cleaning up the city, and then it's like they use a hose to blow every ounce of flesh off the skeleton of a homeless man and reduce him to fucking dust. And then the thing with the elves where you're like committing elf genocide just to find one bad elf. And it all comes together in a way that feels emotionally cohesive. And I have no fucking clue how you did that because the parts seem so disparate on their own, but you take it together as a whole, and there's this really fascinating balance in this piece between romanticism and cynicism. And it works, man. It works really effectively. It's a great piece.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Um, and Rudy's up next.
Hey, I'm gonna read first this shitty poem here, or a couple shitty poems, and then I'm gonna read some child soldier fiction. So this one is called Wagon Ride. This first one here, and this is about, I don't know how familiar people are with Calvin and Hobbes, Bill Wurst and shit, but there's this trope in it. Probably everybody knows something about it, but it's like the philosophical wagon ride, and they go on these wagon rides and they like talk philosophy, and Hobbes is like kind of they're like, hey, watch out for the rock or whatever. Oh yeah. There, I love Colin Hobbes. It was one of my favorites as a kid, and I still love it. But yeah, so that's this one. Oh, Wagon Ride. Afternoon methylphenidate peaks. Twin Peaks Twitter meme I can't relate to. Two different fire pokers prodding the same angry embers. I'm on Finney Boulevard cruising in my beater. There's a tulpa in the passenger seat. It looks like the tiger I'm riding. I know he's mean. Life is a wagon ride from Calvin and Hobbes, except it's nihilistic instead of existential. Me driving myself crazy. A radio anti-suicide ad, ambience for my rage. Tulpa shivers nervously. If I had a quirked up shoddy, I would want to write love on her arms with a barcode and make her show it to some low-level clerk like Magneto did. Tulpa starts sweating. Eyes on the road, but I'm not behind my eyes. Behind Blue Eyes starts playing. Rant turns inward. Fuck you, Rudy. Punching Rudy's face. Dissociation makes this Schadenfreude. Tulpa's gesturing wildly. We're headed off that cliff. And this next one. So I guess today there was some kind of solar event or some shit, and I don't think I can't see anything from my window. I don't know if anybody can see any like lights or anything. I can't see shit like from where we are, but I
Yeah,
don't know.
my parents were talking about that. You're supposed to be able to see the northern lights tonight, but I
Yeah.
can't see shit, and I don't know if I'll be fucked to look.
Yeah, that was my thing too. But I guess like there was a really severe event in the 1850s called the Carrington event, and it like blew out not electric, but like telegraph lines or something. I don't know. But that's what this one's about, sort of. I made it topical because of tonight. I guess it was a particularly severe one tonight or something. So, yeah, this one's called the Carrington event. When reality became slipstream, I masturbated to Leonora Carrington's portrait of the late Miss Partridge in a concealed corner of the library. I came to it in a fugue state, and when I came to, in the year of our Lord 1859, it was just me and Ulysses S. Grant and Abraham Lincoln having a conversation about Ulysses and also General Order Number 11. Telegraphs exploded around us, divine punishment for trying to touch the sun. The dream slipped me some hidden information. Abraham Lincoln was wishing this flare-up had happened in 1862, the year Grant basically telegraphed the United States of America hates Jewish people to history's group chat. Robert E. Lee has a huge fucking penis. And that is that. And I'm going to head over to my other one, which is this this little website that I made. Okay, so I read some of these here before, but those who aren't familiar, basically, it's about a group of child soldiers who steal a necromancer's Spotify premium account, and then they're cursed forever to listen to whatever music that necromancer wants them to listen to. And they're also fighting for the necromancer while doing this in her armies that are taking over the world at some point in history. I don't know. So this one, the one I'm going to read is, I know there's a bunch of them on here. The one I'm going to read is at the bottom. It's called "Now I Don't Mind Chopping Wood," and these are all songfic type deals. They're all based around kind of a song. This is based around the band's "The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down." November 21st. It is with much sadness and too much gain that the masters of the young rich nation announce the fall of Nashville on their speaker systems. Our applause is thunderous. Thunderstorms come from the north, following boy and girl soldiers like cosmetic pets in online Chinese Skinner boxes. Speaking in terms of gains, ours are very great. We have done much clipping and trimming of heads from bodies. Summary executions are on the rise again. Summary: many who now live will be skeletonizing soon. The last forces of the enemy make for trains near the great and powerful districts. They are trying to export their wives and children to somewhere else before we send them to the elsewhere. Their process is slow, like a fraudulent internet bundler that is claiming to be as good as Adobe, and similar to the bricks that carry that namesake, they may soon find themselves stacked up in a freshly dug pit. The trains go nowhere anyway. Skeletons from Long Division have been at them with hammers and crowbars. A train passing over such a rat's nest of twisted metal will surely derail, sending its occupants to the next life and economy. As some people see it, These are now the winter months of 65, the end months of this siege, the end for many young rich niggas who have lingered on a full year longer than the man in the Beatles jaunt, wondering if they are to be fed or abandoned. Within this city of gnashing teeth, there is no real equilibrium except for the movie that Josh, the commander, plays each night in his tent. I have beheld many flags of a nation that I recognize from more boring films. And the young rich nation's backstory is told by black and white images that put me to sleep. This flag was of a country called Dixie. Dixie spent its short life being run into the dirt by those bigger, and in that respect it is similar to me, Anne, and Cortez. It has been explained to me that it also received the benefits of freemium labor, where rich whales could purchase skins to please them. Dixie's flag proudly reigns here, and our unit has made it an errand to retrieve many of these ancient standards because of their aesthetic qualities. Nissa climbed a large obelisk in the center of town to get one for Josh, who is an awful coward with high places. He would not admit this. We rapidly advance in some direction. The places of the young rich nation's hotbed will soon see the heat leave from them, like a carcass, like a very old universe. I have seen Nash Billings and Georgix on their knees, working the earth like it has become a stripper pole. It is dumb for me, but I hope that the process of skeletonization will be the last act of stripping these people endure. And that's all I got.
Man, sorry, my nose started like watering the minute I unmuted my mic. But man, these are fantastic as usual. I love the Calvin and Hobbes poem, and I love how it's even more deconstructive than the comic, right? The comic is already like kind of a deconstruction of your expectations for like a comic strip, right? Like that's one of the appeals of Calvin and Hobbes is it doesn't conform to the like standard like, you know, panel punchline format that most newspaper comic strips do and did at the time. So it's already kind of like playing with form. It's already taking the form apart. And then the poem takes the form of the comic and deconstructs it even more in I think a wonderful way where like Hobbes becomes this kind of like psychotic tulpa, but also he doesn't have the kind of like he doesn't have the kind of vision, like clarity of vision that you would expect, right? All he can really do is get concerned and then warn you that you're going to drive off a cliff. And the inclusion of the like psychic ambient noise of the radio and how that like bleeds into your perspective. Like the whole idea of having like a Calvin and Hobbes strip, but the protagonist is not like an imaginative kid, but rather a psychotic adult. I think it's a great concept and it's executed really well here. Um, the Carrington event one is awesome too, I think, for similar reasons, which is it's another poem that's deconstructive even by your standards, right? Like it's like you can see you're doing what you often do in your poetry, which is like you're weaving historical events in with events from your own life, in with like pop culture stuff, in with like offensive asides about the Civil War. But this is almost like the skeleton of that. Like you don't linger on any moment. It's all compressed together in I think a really interesting way where it's like a sudden jolt of electricity and suddenly you're presented with all of this like prismatic presentation of all of these moments at once in this really compressed form that I think is super fascinating and kind of like kind of dares the reader to get something out of it, right? Kind of like it's like the sudden jolt of pain, and it's like you come on, like just try to derive some insight from this. And I think that's
Yeah.
I think that's compelling, and I think it's effective. And as usual, like the child soldier piece was excellent for all the same reasons that your child soldier stuff usually is. The way that you get at the darker side, the way that you use it to get at the darker side of childhood, as opposed to like doing some like easy shit about contrasting childhood innocence with like the ugliness of the battlefield. So yeah, these are all great pieces, man. Thank you.
Right, thanks.
Um, and Tyler Peterson is up next. I feel the need to distinguish that since
You gotta
innumerable Tylers here tonight.
keep multiplying. All right. This is a piece that I read an early version of at a different MLC, and I cleaned it up enough to get published on Back Patio Press this week. First time I've been there. Drop that in. And this is called Conversation. That was a great graphic they picked for it too. Props. By the time we'd known each other half an hour, we were talking about which song we'd want playing in the background while we committed suicide. It wasn't as out of the blue as I just made it sound. What got us on the subject was this scene in a German movie I'd seen recently about a couple who make snuff films out of the suicides of consenting subjects. Two of said subjects were young women, teenage looking, early 20s at the absolute limit, who, for reasons we are not privy to, kill themselves together with pills and vodka. Of all the things I was meant to be upset about in this movie, I found myself particularly upset by the music they picked to play them out of the world of the living. Some listless late 90s jangly sub-Mazzy Star dry jack played on a tinny boombox that turned those trendy jangles all crunchy and abrasive. The viewer isn't informed which of the girls was in charge of the music, but if I were the other one, I would have put a pin in the whole thing and found something decent. I mean, Christ, you only get one shot at this. Take a bit of care with it. Fine, she said. So what would you pick instead? This is a more involved question than would strike you at first glance. It presupposes a couple of things. Above all, that you're killing yourself in some way that leaves you enough time to listen to something. Bleeding out in the bathtub was the example she used. And I never really saw myself punching my ticket in that way. Didn't fit my personality. Part of that was, no doubt, related to the cultural gender dynamics of suicide. Slitting your wrists in the tub is sort of your classic female suicide, a lengthy, languid affair that you need to set the mood for, in contrast to a quick and decisive manly suicide like a gun or hanging. There was a sex and or masturbation analogy lurking in there, which I decided not to bring up because I was fucking amazed the drift of this conversation wasn't weirding her out yet, and I didn't want to push my luck. She may have noticed that I restrained myself from saying something, but she didn't press the issue. She said she would dispute that. We both knew that suicide was underreported in light of its taboo nature. Underreported by quite a bit, in her opinion. Specifically, she believed that tons of overdoses among men that get ruled accidental actually aren't. There was a kid in her high school, she said, a senior who had already been a detox once, found dead of a benzo overdose, and it came out a couple of years later that his dad had found a suicide note with him but hidden it. Imagine how often that probably happens, she said. I made her go first, and it didn't surprise me at all that she had an answer on hand. Tomorrow never knows. I was already pretty attracted to her at this point, so I kept to myself how basic I found that answer. Her reasoning surprised me, though. She didn't mention the lyrics at all. It's the drums mainly. I've always loved the drums on that song. I don't know enough about audio production to put my finger on it, but it's sort of like echoey and strange. There's almost kind of a phase effect on it. It whooshes and sloshes around, and I don't know, the beat is just super hypnotic. And it's always been able to like calm me down. And I think I'd need that in that situation. Just calm down and push myself through it. It was my turn now. I paused for a moment. I paused too long for her and she chided me for it. She said I had something in mind already. It was my honest answer and I should just spit it out instead of trying to think of something cooler to try to impress her. I didn't know that I accepted that premise. I also thought she was being a bit of a hypocrite. I doubted she'd just come up with her answer off the cuff. That was thought over for sure. But she was right. I did have something in mind, so I said fuck it and told it to her. It was Heaven by Robin Hitchcock, but not the album version. What I had in mind was a live version from some reissue. I ran across it by pure accident when my friend burned me a CD ages ago. It was an acoustic reworking of the version everybody knows, and it had a slower tempo, an interesting lopsided arpeggio behind it, some harmonies that weren't there before. Most importantly, there was a spoken word intro where Robin went off on this whole fantastical tangent, making Heaven out to be a folk song that miners used to sing while they prayed at a floating cathedral out in the wilderness. That's why I picked it, and I didn't really have an articulate reason. It was just a beautiful song, but not without a sense of the sardonic. And the intro added a surreal touch, perfect for tipping me off into what dreams may come. I didn't go home with her that night, but I did get her number. I got home with a maggot on my brain. I queued up Tomorrow Never Knows on a Bose speaker and filled up the bathtub. Steaming hot. I grabbed a fillet knife from the kitchen and gave myself a quick stab in the thigh with it. On the outer edge so as to miss the femoral. I wasn't doing it for real. I climbed into the tub and winced as the bloody part of my leg seared like a section of hot wire. I'd made the wound probably deeper than it needed to be, and definitely made the water hotter than it needed to be. Moreover, I was dumb and left the shampoo bottle open in the bottom of the tub while it was filling, and boy, did that shit sting. No matter, all the better. I lay there, lazily bleeding into the water until there was enough in the tub that I could pretend I was dying. Dried off my hand on the hanging towel, reached over to the counter and hit play. I sat there, following the billows of steam off the bathwater with my eyes, envisioning the life slowly oozing out of me drop by drop. And I'll be damned if I didn't see what she meant. That drum part was fucking meant to be played in a bathroom you were dying in. That odd double tom hit like a faltering heartbeat. Ringo was obviously plugged deeper into the mysteries of the beyond than he was ever given credit for. The acoustics were perfect. The drums bounced off the tile and mingled with the sound of the bloody water sloshing around. And when I shifted, in the tub, it was like that whooshing beat reached into my head and turned the volume down on everything else. The heat on my face and the throb in my leg all sank down to the bottom of the bathtub. I surrendered fully to the fantasy with ease, and blackness gathered at the edge of my vision as I imagined it would. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in a silent bathroom with my neck stiff and my limbs goosebumped from the completely cold water. Hauled my heavy body out of the tub and started drying, rubbing hard to warm my body back up, pausing to blot my leg wound gingerly. I debated whether to tell her what I found out. I decided that was third date material. Oh yeah, content warning.
Oh man, the content warning, yeah.
So Tyler, I'm glad you read this again, and I'm glad it got published in Back Patio because I fucking love this story so much. I love I love the like conversational way it starts, right? I love the way that it's so like gentle and easy to begin with. It feels like it's just two people chatting, right? Like just a kind of flirtatious conversation. And yeah, the conversation has an insidious undertone, but so do a lot of like flirtatious date conversations, right? Like when you're hitting on someone or whatever, like often like you ask these like there's something deeply perverse about an icebreaker. You know, it's always under the surface there because the most effective icebreakers always have like a little bit of darkness under the surface of them. So like you get eased into this story in such a wonderful way where it's like, oh yeah, it's like it's this romantic conversation. And then when the turn arrives, when the guy sticks the fucking knife in his leg and slides into the bathtub, it's so psychologically perfect because you understand why he's doing it. It makes perfect crystal clear sense, and it is so dark and so unexpected. And then that final line is such a nasty punchline. Like, because here's someone who it seems like has some kind of calculated social graces, right? Like he's able to come up with this icebreaker and chit chat with this woman, and the fact that he has that vacancy too, that he would think this is something that it was ever appropriate to share with another human being, like it's so wonderful. It's such a wonderful like psychological like rope trick going on here that's really really effective. I have to ask, I think I did this the last time you read this story, but I love this story so much I'm going to do it again. Put it in the chat, guys. What song would you commit suicide to? For me, it's definitely Mr. Tambourine Man by Bob Dylan. There's no better. But if you want to die gently, right? Like there are plenty of songs about suicide, but in terms of like songs about death that make death seem like gentle and mystical and like a journey between worlds instead of something like fatal and final and brutal, it's got to be Mr. Tambourine Man. Tyler, what's yours before? You must have thought about it. You wrote the story.
Yeah, I basically put my answer in there.
Oh, okay.
Heaven by Robin Hitchcock.
Okay. That's
Um, yeah, if you search for the song on YouTube, you probably will not find the version that I'm talking about. So if you want, I can hunt up the link.
Do it. Do it. Put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Put it in the chat. Um, Jan has another Bob Dylan choice. Positively 4th Street. That's a good choice, Jan. Sound of Silence, Tyler says. That's another good one. The other Tyler. One of the other Tylers. Uh, anyway, thank you, Tyler. That was a fantastic story, and I'm glad to hear it again because it's one of my favorites.
Thanks, Will. Oh, and Derek, your copy of Characters came in the mail. I'm already up to Nightshades Part 2. It's fucking amazing. Thanks.
Hell yeah. Rudy's gonna kill himself to Prince Ali from Aladdin. That's Prince Ali, marvelous he. Okay, all right. Thank you, Tyler. And Jan is up next, but I think Rudy's going to be Rudy is Jan warging. Oh,
Warg!
he's warging.
It's the Warg.
Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift.
That's a good one. Um, yeah. So I'm gonna link this in here. Jan, it's okay to link this? Excellent. Okay, incoming link. I think we'll go through. There it goes. Okay, and then read this story by Jan. Oh man, that that graphic is really good. This graphic. This is called SITREP, or the People's War on Gliese 667cc, and that you're seeing is the flag of the National Liberation Front for Gliese, used during the Solarian Civil War of 2654 to 2698. Section 1. Keep your goddamn head down before you get us all killed, and start thinking happy thoughts. The bugs feed off of negative shit. We get a guy down here once, right? Clinical depression. I get that the SLA is desperate, but it was a mistake to send this sad sack our way. Anyways, he takes his helmet off, and inside of a minute, we got bugs on our position. I seen one of the fuckers turn a guy inside out and compact him into a goddamn meat cube that screams. That's how the bugs work. Either they shoot you, eat you, or do some real gnarly shit to you. Some real Hellraiser shit, Private. Anyway, Droopy Dog disappears during the shit, and we find him the 3 weeks later outside of Amsterdam 4 with his arms and legs missing. We did rock, paper, scissors on who had to shoot him. Now, don't fucking pout, Private. We're in the trenches. This is a war. Be happy. Every bug you kill, that's hardwired to trip the parts of your brain that make you orgasm. It's fucked up at first. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's not such a great idea in the long run. But whatever the Solarian Liberation Army wants, the Solarian Liberation Army gets. You ever seen a bug? Yeah, I didn't think so. I'm from 16 Psych, right? Built Ford motherfucking tough. Belters make the best soldiers because we don't bitch and moan as much as Flatlanders do. Anyway, the colony I'm from was a cylinder sunk into the surface, right? A few bugs get in. Who the fuck knows how? Who the fuck knows when? All we do know is that inside of a month, we got people's pet dogs turning up skinned alive, cats are going missing, whatever. No way it's the fucking bugs, my dad was saying. That's mistake number one. Never be optimistic. These things are basically fucking animals. The real things are ugly. Real ugly. Imagine a praying mantis with a face and enough opposable thumbs to peel an orange real fucking fast. They come all the way from Arcturus to fuck with our little part of the Orion arm. Here's mistake number two. Don't get any of their blood on you. The real bugs just bleed. The ones that look like people got some fucking nasty shit in their blood. You might feel like a badass space marine. You're gonna feel way less like a badass space marine when you've got a fucking bunch of wacky alien nanomachines chewing a hole through your skin. Mistake number three. Shoot the ones that look like kids first. Yeah, it's fucked up, but you get used to it. And the political guy that Soul Gov sent us says they've got this hive mind so they can't really think, and you're basically mercy killing them. But for the first 5 or 6 times, you're gonna feel like shit. Number four, don't have sex with the locals. All trade is rough trade. Some of them are bugs. There's no way to tell until they got you tied down and they're calling up their hive to come eat you. Number five, if their bodies start moving after you shot them, and they will, keep shooting. The heads grow back. One time, Dennis shot this old faggot's head off, turned around, took a leak against a rock, turned around, and muscle and skin were already wrapping itself around the guy's skull. Shot him again, emptied a whole clip into him, he says. Calls it on SATCOM to get more guys down there. Watches. Thing gets up with no head and starts strangling him. By the time we got there, it had a new head and it was in the middle, puking all over him. Brutal. Had to napalm the whole field this shit went down in. Now, you might be thinking, gee, this sounds like a regular vacation. It pretty much fucking sucks the whole way down, Private. There are absolutely zero benefits. You are fucked. The idea here is to make sure they're more fucked. We're going to salt the earth and kill every motherfucker on this planet if we have to. These things are evil. They want to destroy our way of life. If they had it their way, all the walls would be made out of mucus and we'd be praying to bug Jesus or whatever the fuck these freaks pray to. All that jihad shit is just a cover for genocide. They're gonna kill us all if we don't kill them first. And I get it. You've seen the protests, bunch of faggots on Terra saying it's wrong to shoot them and that it's all voluntary because of that shit they got leaked onto the internet a few years back. I've seen these creeps tear a guy's jaw off and vomit down his esophagus. 10 minutes later, he's shooting at us. Again, keep your head down. Here's some real advice. Our so-called allies, you know, the guys from Beetlejuice, they came all the way out here to help us exterminate these guys. 800 light years. That is majorly fucking far. I don't trust them. Don't talk to or look at them. They look like if moths and those creepy little monkeys with red asses had a baby. The fuck they call those? Yeah, mandrills. We used to have one of them, the aliens dipshit, not the monkeys, with us, and I swear to God, man, those things are sick. Don't get me wrong, I'm into some weird shit, but I think they're sending us the intergalactic equivalent of sex offenders or something. They almost make me feel bad for the little bastards, you know? Like, I've seen these things fuck a bug up the ass in the middle of a combat zone. Tactical nukes detonating, heads coming off, whatever. Motherfucker had a cloak that made it out of human skin, bug skin, whatever. It was creepy as fuck. And they cannot hang either. We'd be shooting the shit, waiting for the green light to go, and this thing would skitter up and start chittering at us and say something like, "Another day at the office." Say that shit a gazillion times, start laughing, then skitter off. They get inside your head too. Happy thoughts, nigga. Don't talk to them or look at them. The farther away from us they are, the better. Oh, right, and don't drink the water. You'll shit your pants. Section 2. Some portions censored due to SolGov Directive A87.L. Dear Mom, the SLA has me writing this down in case I die or get eaten out here. I can't just send you a video because it'd take about 2 decades to get back to good old Sol 3. For starters, almost no one in my unit speaks English. They got me in the Dutch colony sector, which is on the total opposite side of the planet from the American-British one. I know you haven't ever been outside of a gravity well, but we made a stop in Tau Ceti before we got here. Redacted. Their cities are clean. We haven't seen any real bugs yet. Ellipsis. Talk about gross. Please write back. Love, your son, Hank. Section 3. Decrypted by the 38th Division ComSec for General Meyer Slansky and PR Beetlejuice advisors only. 1. Archon 1, this is Vulture 2 attempting to make contact. Vulture 2, this is Archon 1, please state reason for communication. Loneliness. Vulture 2, we are fighting a holy war against Arcturian SolGov fascism. If you do give a valid reason, we will stop all communication. Movement of Arcturian SolGov forces into Amsterdam 4 believed to be 8th Division Solarian Marines with some Arcturian political officers. Archon 1, please advise on next steps. Unclear what you are asking. Restate. Archon 1, we're very scared. There are only 4 of us. Do you have actual presence, or are you human? Human. Vulture 2, please directly request actual presence if needed. We are not sure what you want. Roughly 1,000 SolGov Marines, an unknown number of Arcturians, also sightings of attack helicopters. We are requesting downgrade from active combat, CADE, to observation at this time. Request denied. We are closing this channel for communications. Good luck. That's it.
Man,
Jan, that fucking rock, bro. Damn.
Yeah, that was fucking awesome, and Rudy was the perfect choice to read that as well. Man, I love the fucking world building on display here. I think of the 3 sections, that last one is my favorite, even though it was like relatively short. I love the idea of this like desperate platoon like sending a message out of like despair and loneliness to higher up the food chain, only to have it like be like bluntly denied for no real reason. Like, nah, you're just like that kind of confirmation of like their just expendability, right? Like how completely superfluous they are. And you get a sense of like also that kind of like existential despair of being marooned in the middle of nowhere in deep space on top of all the warfare shit, right? Like the idea of distance from home that comes up in all three of these sections, right? Like the way that like it's not just like the hilarious world building details here of the bugs and like how they like digest and dismember human beings, but also that sense of like, oh yeah, this is really fucking far away. This is far away in a way that we cannot fathom. And all of the like bureaucratic shit and how that gets in the way in addition to the distance. Like the fact that most of the second one is redacted, and it's redacted in a way that makes it clear that like every unflattering thing was removed from this piece. I love that huge section, like the whole bottom third of that letter is redacted, and I love that. And like the mix between like the super pulpy, like Starship Troopers-esque, like deep space bug combat stuff, and the like existential despair of war away from home. It's a really fascinating and I think super effective mix. It's a great piece, Jan. And thank you, Rudy. You
It's
did a great job reading it.
it's super effective.
Mm.
Jen, that the aliens, like not the bugs, but the second aliens, that were like sent to help.
Yeah,
That really the friendly,
the friendly
the friendly,
aliens.
it's like, so it's supposed to be like the South Vietnamese or whatever, right? Is that sort of the deal, like where they? Okay, because it definitely had those real like Full Metal Jacket vibes. It was really, it was really, it's really like a good, like William said, a good mix of Starship Troopers with like that kind of thing, or like the things they carry type of lunacy. Like it was really good. Oh yeah, and yeah, that the books are people. Yeah, that the thing like where it's like, yeah, the ones that look like children, like you got to shoot them, right? Like that was awesome. Yeah, the fact that the bugs are actually, yeah, they're actually humans. Like it's like they just look like it. You know, they might be bugs, but you know they look kind of like people. Yeah, that's great. That was
Oh
awesome,
man.
man.
All right, all right. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Rudy. And Derek. Derek is up next. Mr. Wartime author himself.
Thank you very much. This has been awesome. Thank you guys. Can you hear me okay? Am I coming through or my reports coming through?
Perfectly, perfectly.
All right. I'm gonna read, decided tonight I'm gonna read two different little sections of Wartime Author. I put William's gonna put the link up to the Google Docs. You can kind of go there. So that we're gonna start with that the purpose tonight is to show you what war can do to a man, you know, especially a man reporting on the front lines, a man such as, but not necessarily myself. And so the
Shut up,
first
you
part,
bitch. You fucking bitch.
Rebecca Ferguson. Sweet. I love it. See, they don't know. What they don't know about the history is like I don't
Rebecca
handle
was a
them.
coward too, may I say. Rebecca just left. That was
Yeah, I
all
don't.
Rebecca had in him. He didn't even stick around to get thrown out.
It's an enemy. You know what I mean? That's all it is. There's going to be haters. So this first thing is right when the war starts, and then and then I'll read something else. Okay. I'm in Winston-Salem, my hometown, for a writing trip. So I've been working on it. It means a lot to me that you guys listen to me. But I have read all this already before. So if it's time to go to the bathroom, take a break, whatever, I tell you, understand that. Also, last thing I'm going to say, in Winston-Salem was a little loud right now because a major event is happening tomorrow, and there's lots of shit right around me getting set up. The Bare Naked Ladies are playing here, okay, which is a very big event for a town like Winston-Salem. And when I was telling my son, who's almost 13, what I was doing, that I was going on this writing trip, and I was like, in the Bare, and you know, the Bare Naked Ladies are playing. He, you know, he did not know. You know, he thought I was saying something very, very filthy. You know, that I was going on a writing trip to play with Bare Naked Ladies, and I said, no, son, it's far worse than that. All right, this is part 1, section 4. I spritz polo on and smile again at Pussy Lips as I walk down to the beach for a stroll and a smoke of the local stuff. Pussy has been hanging around my room all day. I named her that after glimpsing her tight micro thong from the front and the unmistakable swelling of a woman in serious need. She's pretending to talk on the phone with a Kyle on and off who's in New York for a thing. I'm pretending not to notice her, which is making everyone wet. I arch a smart brow towards Pussy Lips, but beneath shade so there's no spills. They see me and they see a man that still knows how to make them come, might fuck around and make them crazy, and they love it because there's so goddamn few of us left. I'm floating through scenes and bodies out here. I'm fully myself when the war comes. I'm a wartime writer, an expat in the beautiful trenches, covered with your cum, contact high for the contract price. The sun and the war bring out the naughty bits in me, babe. I'm pure vehicle. I don't choose what speaks through me. Let's celebrate. You can hide out during a war in exotic colonized islands. You can be whatever you want during the war, except poor. The war has all my endorphins firing, my sex is showing, my penis is dipped in cum. Fuck, I'm awake. Feels good. I walk from the pool to the other pool to the beach to the room, letting every guest have a chance to see it. Several of them ask to touch it. I smile, wanly. Someone else's hair is in my night cream. Basically, I lose it. Thank God for this war. Some of the pores are starting to get ideas. My God, the kiddies are underfed here, strays and guests alike. Even the curtains here are weeping. The gas-paned banister reflects rainbow prisms on the marble stairs. A young boy buffs them speckled white each morning. Underneath the droopy prawns, someone said something about a mistake or a milkshake. I asked the bellhop what they put in the ocean here to make it so blue. Some kind of fluoride? An older couple, but not much, pulls up to the stools next to me at the swim-up bar at the infinity pool, and after some chit-chat about the weather and a failed Polish arms deal, they were German or pretending to be, offers me a significant sum of cash in American dollars to watch. There's nothing to watch, I smirk, even wink maybe, definitely demure. Your wife is very beautiful, the woman says in a thick accent. I assume she's seen Pussy Lips circling my room like a lioness in heat and has made certain calculated assumptions about the nature of our relationship. I don't correct her. I don't correct anyone. Anything can become an advantage. I don't fuck my wife. That's gross. I laugh and give the gentleman a sideways glance. The conversation goes on and gets stupider, and finally we're in the room, and there's a lot of cash and a little coke and a lot of weed, and the German wife is telling me to touch it, and the German husband has his mouth gaped. He's never seen a cock work and wiggle like this one. And my wife is downstairs somewhere pestering a concierge about a canceled aquatic aerobics class. There's rumblings by the pool, mostly in French, about some clouds coming in later this afternoon, and will the PA equipment withstand the rain? And I come in a champagne flute, and the German couple argue greedily over who sips the last drop. I haven't lived my own life for ages. I hardly remember. There's a tween room here at the resort where everyone sits around having sex and cutting themselves. Someone cleans up vomit on the hour. A fire alarm goes off. It costs $5 American to see a real Jamaican penis, 12 to touch it. There are spies in the gift shop buying fridge magnets for their daughters back home. The rum and cokes have been flat for 3 days. A sanctuary for monarch butterflies by the lazy river is not getting watered enough. Someone yells through walkie-talkie static. Some sour-pitted fruits keep falling off the trees, and 6 Canadians have had to visit the house medic for head injuries. Water is calmer this morning. The word thatch hangs over everything. I finally saw myself in the mirror on the 5th day. I was stuck in the elevator. 2 of the 3 elevator walls boxing me in were fully mirrored. It was like a fun house. I didn't look good, and I saw myself not looking good, and 2 of the 3 walls boxing me in, and I saw my reaction when I saw myself not looking good, and it wasn't good, and I was coming down from an awful lot of drugs, and the elevator wasn't stuck. I'd just forgotten to press the button. Thank fucking Christ. One of the groundsmen fucked up the setting and positioning of the spritz sprinkler, and it's too close to the nude area where I'm tanning, and my paper bag is soaked. But I don't care because the story was going nowhere and torturing us all along the way. But I still complain and get to watch the poor idiot get fired on the spot and score 6 drink tickets to a party happening later down at the beach that I won't be going to for my inconvenience. I move between hours like moods, and the lighting is particularly important to me. It affects all of my balance. Sometimes here it's too bright in the evening or too dim in the daylight, and I immediately seize up and submit to a panic attack. The medic has refused requests for more Xanax. I have successfully recruited heavily acne teenagers from the cutting room with nervous dispositions to keep me in my benzo cups in exchange for a few red stripes from my minibar and one hurried lesson on how to eat pussy, and the medic can't say no to rich white kids. No one can. On the 2nd day, a member of the entertainment crew casually mentions I might not be tipping enough, and by the 4th day, I see him bussing tables at the Fat Midwestern Buffet on floor 3, surely the resort of at least 3 comment boxes stuffed with ominous anonymous suggestions of pederasty. The moon over the sea tonight in the Caribbean, a war to fill our spirits and our bellies. I'm too big for this place, and I'm too much for these people. I'm too big for this place, and I'm too much for these people. Old people with pig noses. I chewed Klonopins like Tic Tacs on my climb to the top of the corporate ladder. I heard one of the fat, sweaty pigs oink to no one in particular by the daiquiri machine. God, I hope he goes into Poland. If I had sons, I'd have them all conscripted. I might fuck fat bitches just to make sons, just to raise them to army the fuck up. This war could last the rest of the century with any luck. Fat bitches make the best sons and always have. History is the story of young boys rising against their fat bitch mothers and embracing greatness. Women who can't or won't get fat stay home and tend to gardens and make nothing of their lives or the lives of their scared faggot sons. To say nothing of their anorexic daughters, God help them all. My grandfather sold limes on the side during the Mexican-American War, which is just another way to say, I was born to do this. I was born this way. Okay. So we're going to go, that's the very beginning of the war. This is about March of 2022. And now we're going to go briefly just to give you a sense. Like I said, I want you to see a sense of what, what happens to a man covering a war. We're going to go to 3 days in September, and this is 2023. 3 days in September is, this is before October 7th, or 6th. This is before new fronts erupted in the sand from the river to the sea. September 1, I see myself sand shades in the Food Lion bathroom and immediately throw up. The roads to the edge of the earth are flooded. Storms pass through here. The museum director phoned this morning, something about documents, quarter of a century almost gone. They're building a highway through the yard. Deer corn came and went this season. All the greens and blues are conspiring against us. The speed of everything is now. I'm on the last strip of land before the earth ends and everything is ocean. Atlantic side. No one is paying me to write about the war. The black clouds swallowed the blue moon, extinguishing the light over the sea. Hatteras Lighthouse still beams. There are no ships. The water is up to the pilings. The war is in Kyiv, is in Russia, is on the computer, is in other skies over distant lands, is bumming everyone out. These popcorn ceilings are killing me. Glass lamps filled with shells, sand dollars epoxied in the coffee table. This is a nice place to come watch the world end, I think. September 2. Russia continues to control the shipping channels. The collapse of the Black Sea grain deal is choking Ukraine. There are no signs of the war ending anytime soon, the Wall Street Journal reports this morning. Not me, not here. I can see the end. I see nothing but endings these days. I stand at the end of the world watching the waves this Labor Day weekend year of our Lord 2023. The novel breaks apart into a poem until it finally mercifully finds its rope and hangs itself, like all great novels, like all great art. Blake said this confidently one night in June, I recall. I don't know what it means. I don't know what any of it means. I'm sick of Cheez-Its for breakfast, sweat stains, and the goddamn sun won't shut off. I started this war one thing, and now I'm another. I see an end before total darkness. I'll have to explain it later. What horrors did Alexander Grothendieck uncover in pure mathematics that led him to live out his life in isolation at the foot of the Pyrenees eating dandelion soup? Or was it something else entirely? Something about us? Not even McCarthy seems to know. His parents were anarchists. His political beliefs led him to seclusion, one version accepts. He was a pacifist. This was during Vietnam when it mattered to be such things. He knew his father little, confusing him at times with another man, and yet idolized him. Supposedly, it was the war that led him to subsist on dandelion soup. September 3. The sandpipers flit across the shell line. The museum director is refusing treatment. 3 nights ago, the moon was something else. This century is coming together. Other ugliness awaits. Grigory Perelman is another reclusive Russian mathematician, a contemporary of the times. He retreated in 2006 after declining the incomparably prestigious Fields Medal and its $1 million cash prize. He similarly did not accept the Millennium Prize, also $1 million, in 2010. He forages for mushrooms now outside of his native St. Petersburg. He said, I don't want to be on display like an animal in a zoo. I'm not a hero of mathematics. I'm not even that successful. That is why I don't want to have everybody looking at me. Fighter jets are practicing formations over Avon this morning by the sea. They'll return to Fort Bragg, a cursed installation if ever there was one. Militaries tend to take on the spirit of their people in their time. America is particularly sick at this moment in history, if there even is history. America and Russia together seem dangerously close to declaring the end of history. Formations over the Atlantic, Kyiv blasted again through the night, cluster munitions, remote control operated drones, a digital divide, a war in fragments until, finally, with love, the bomb. Boom. Hours, maybe days. The next bomb. The next. One day you will go outside to play with your friends for the last time, he'd heard once. An entire species vaporized. A mass extinction event. One of these bombs will be the last one. You know, someone will say one day in a field, huddled over a fire, scraping beans from the bottom of the can with a metal spork. Tears. The waves are violent, enormous billboards of sea this morning, a pale blue over everything like a fog. I see lines of blue meeting impossibly. I see Ford F-150s with big fat sand tires trawling the beaches. I see bodies and bodies caught up in the roil. Reports are coming in from the desert. Burning Man attendees are trapped in the sand. A new governance is developing. Thank you.
Derek. So these are wonderful. I do remember you reading the first section before. I think it was one of the first things you read from Wartime Author. And I love this. What I love about that first opening section is it has this really wonderful like arc and trajectory to it. Like there's so much bravado, there's so much confidence, and you can tell like it's so delicately written because you can tell it's a brittle kind of confidence, right? You can tell that it's fragile. You can see the fragility of this guy's confidence, but it's so over the top. It's so comically over the top. And then what I really love though is that moment in the fucking elevator when the door is closed, he sees his reflection and it all goes to shit. Like it's as if like the sight of himself is enough to shatter all of this confidence, and you have this moment of real terror and loathing that like comes out of nowhere and then is gone, and then that like brittle fake confidence reasserts itself, and it's really like psychologically astute and really well written and really effective. And one thing I also love about that opening for a piece, especially as the beginning of Wartime Author, is how like displaced in time and space it feels. Like I love there's a moment where like he's basically like, yeah, I hope he invades Poland. And you're like, is he talking about Putin or is he talking about Hitler, right? Like it's as if he's existing in this kind of like hermetically sealed bubble where like all rich warmongers go. Like this kind of universal resort, this kind of like tropical hell at the edge of like all human society and all human and like all of human history. Like it could be some fucking sunny fucking spot in ancient Rome where the fucking emperors and the leaders go to talk about their next war, just as easily as it could be some Caribbean resort, right, in the modern day. And the sense of like that detachment, that sterile but beautiful detachment from the war, and the universality, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying, of it all. It's like it's really effective, man. It's really effective. And then the September sections are fucking beautiful. I love the contrast of like these seaside scenes, that fucking hotel room that like we're all somehow familiar with the fucking like the glass table with the seashells and the popcorn ceilings. Like I don't know why everyone has been has been inside that room at some point in their life, right? And the like idyllic seaside setting set against the like distant thunder of this thing, this event that you know is happening somewhere that's terrible, that's overturning lives, that's ending lives, and the contrast of that, and there's the wonderful moment that comes up later where he's like looking out at the ocean, and it's this like serene moment, and then the bodies start washing in. It's so good, Derek. It's fucking
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you
And I've
very
been going
much.
on for too long, but thank you, man.
No, and so did I, and thank you. Yeah, and just remember, like next time that anybody ever feels like, you're not doing enough, or you're not, getting enough attention for your art, or whatever way that I feel, lots of people feel, right? Remember Gregory Perelman, winning the Millennial Prize and the Fields Medal Prize, and explaining as to why he like left society and didn't do anything, that he felt he had not done anything at all.
Yeah.
That real art, that's something there about the real art through the lack of ego. I'm not able to do that, of course, because my ego
Neither
is
am
larger
I,
than the
man.
screen, right? Of course, but I love that. I love that anecdote, and that's real.
No, it's wonderful. And that like malaise is real too. That sense of like it doesn't matter how much you've written, how much you've created. Like you wake many like I wake up every day like I've never done anything. Like that's my default state. It's like, no, I've never created anything. I've never done anything. And so many of us, like that's not it's like a universal thing. And so that you can be like you're saying that like that you can have created art of that substance, right? And still be like, I haven't done a goddamn thing. It is. It's humbling and it's maybe reassuring in a weird, sick way. Anyway, thank you, Derek. And Derek wasn't going to be the last one to read tonight, but somebody signed up and then decided they didn't want to read. So I guess we're ending it there. I guess I will, if somebody has a piece that they want to read, say so in the chat now. We'll do the auctioneer, like going once, going twice thing, because we probably have enough time for one or two more pieces if someone wants to read. If not, we can end it here and now and move right on to the after party. Going one. Oh, Tyler. Tyler, yeah, absolutely, Tyler. Well, I don't know. It's not Peterson. It's one of the other Tylers.
Whichever one of
their
you.
names spelled exactly the same.
Bastards. Tyler Byrne, do you want to read after me? No, I will. I'll read one that was published recently with House of Vlad. So this is called Stupid Poem. This is a stupid poem. Doesn't rhyme, have line breaks. Come on. In it, I'm in Hawaii. That's poetic. Show me something in nature resembling a stupid poem more than the banyan tree. I'm waiting. Remembering living with Jeff Bridges from The Men Who Stare at Goats. Not Jeff Bridges, the guy he was pretending to be. Jim. Jim liked me. Said, I can give you work. He said you can stay on property. He didn't say one of the many rooms on property, just on property. On property at large. So I quote unquote lived in 8 feet of culvert sitting on the ground. That's what makes this poem stupid. I mean, a culvert? Come on. I named it the pill bug because of all the bugs. I was in my 20s in Hawaii. Life couldn't get better. Each morning I'd wake up and walk around. Jim would be trying to kill a goat by staring at it, and other 20-somethings who lived on property would be showing off their bodies, cooking vegan food, falling out of coconut trees, etc. Sometimes I'd walk 6 miles in sandals just to read a book in the park, a poetry book. That's some poetic shit there. Think you're good at picking up ladies? Well, I picked one up and lived in a fucking culvert. How about that? I picked up this woman that time I lived in Hawaii. If it makes you feel better, she was married. Or engaged. Not engaged enough, because we had sex in my fucking culvert. Dirty, bug-infested sex. The next morning, another 20-something asked while eating vegan food who'd had company last night. Nice, he said when I raised my hand. Me and the nearly married woman had sex again in a field beside a bunch of cattle. I mentioned someone hurt us that first time in the pill bug. She thought the field was safer. Remember the guy who said nice? Well, a few weeks later, he kept me up all night, laughing the way cartoon characters do when they're batshit crazy. Nice, I thought, figuring he'd taken mushrooms, that's what was keeping me up. All the good times he was having in his head. Yin, yang, I thought. Karma. He was taken off the property the following morning, though. Turns out it wasn't mushrooms, but mental illness that had him cackling like a mad hatter. He was batshit crazy. Another time, a friend hurt his foot and was sad and couldn't work. The friend was scared, because people who can't work don't exactly have a long shelf life in Hawaii. He was scared he'd have to limp back to Kentucky or Minnesota or whatever non-poetic place he was from and go back to being a normal person. Convinced, if that happened, no one, especially himself, would ever love him. I told him I'd fix the foot. Lie down, I said, on the ground. I sort of massaged the foot, like I knew what I was doing, mentally projecting all this love into that part of his body. When it was done, he said, yeah, that does feel better. Nothing can last, especially a poem, so my time in Hawaii was over. Poof. Me and the not yet married woman had sex one last time. Our flights ended up in the same city in California before zipping us back to real life. We had it in the shower, which, being so much cleaner and more private than the pill bug or that field, you'd figure would be the best sex we had. But it was listless, without heart or any magic, because there was no more poetry in our story. Poof. She flew back, married that guy. I hope she's happy. And that friend, he emailed months later, years, said, "Hey, you really fixed my foot. I can't thank you enough." He said, "I felt like I should tell you. I had sex with," then he typed the name of the not yet married woman right in the email. "Sorry," he said. Sometimes I get to thinking about Jim, the woman and the Mad Hatter, the friend with the foot, and all the other unbelievable people I've met. How none of it makes sense and then is gone. How life is like a stupid poem if you stop and think about it. But I hardly ever think about it. And I could read one more short one. Is it okay, William, if I read a story that Misery is going to publish but hasn't yet?
Absolutely. Go right
Cool.
ahead.
Okay. This is called My Reason for Living. I stopped dating a girl after I cut it off with the previous one and the one before that. Began brushing 4 times a day and doing pilates. My abs became lean, hard. I enjoyed shower water running over and through them. I downloaded Tinder, Bumble, Match.com, eHarmony, Happen, OkCupid, Hinge, most of my day alternating between sips of smoothie and swiping right. I traveled, documenting with a 360-degree camera, perfected my performance voice, my YouTube thumbnails, gained 4 billion subscribers. I quit or lost my job, got usurped by the algorithm, lost followers. My exes sent nasty emails. I cried 4 times a day. Beneath a tree, I buried the 360 camera in a shallow grave. Started spending time walking through the woods, growing hair on my face, shoulders, and abs. Examining the skin on my arms in front of me, I screamed, "What strange suit is this?" I found a cave near town, started eating ants, graduating eventually to squirrels and rabbits and larger carcasses smoking in the duff. "Hyah!" I said. One day, hunger peaking, I ventured into town for the only meal that would satiate me, a psychiatrist. I drug her screaming by the hair from her office, past the front desk and onto the sidewalk. "What is it you want me to help you with?" she kept yelling. I'd lost my need for language in the cave, so I responded, "Hyah!" and kept moving. Police set up a barricade at the edge of town. When bullets bounced off me, they dropped to their knees, set rifles on the ground as I walked past, pulling the psychiatrist. We arrived at the cave. I showed her my collection of deer pellets, the Nintendo 64 I found next to the creek, demonstrated my morning exercise, jumping rope shockingly fast, but ropeless, because I'd been unsuccessful yet in finding one. I thought she was a psychiatrist, I thought. "You're terrified of being wrong, aren't you?" she said, finally. I felt terrified. "Afraid you're actually like everyone you despise," she continued, then cupped my cheek and sort of smiled from the side of her mouth, gently stroking my hair, fangs, and tail. I'd never hated anyone like I hated her then. From then on, I decided I'd act in a way that made it seem like she was wrong. That's the only way to stomach becoming part of this system not built for me, I decided. This, I decided, would be my reason for living. Thank you.
Tyler, these are wonderful. I want to talk a little bit about the one we're publishing, but very quickly because because we're publishing it. So of course I love that piece. But so what I really dig about this piece is that it gets at like something wonderfully astute about the like influencer state of mind, because you've seen so many of these influencer guys, right? Like these Andrew Tate-esque guys who like they build this whole persona up about like how like masculine they are, how impressive they are, and they accumulate this whole following, and then they go absolutely nuts.
Ape
Like,
shit, yeah.
they basically end up in a cave eating bugs, right? They cultivate some insane like ideological obsession with primitivism or with eating raw eggs or meat or like like fucking doing pull-ups with their testicles or whatever, and like
Right.
they're gone, and there's something wonderful about that pathology. And what I love about this piece is it takes that pathology and it just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing against it, and it gets funnier and funnier. until like finally at the end, there's this moment where like he might have like a profound psychological insight. He's got this psychiatrist. She tells him something true about himself, and his takeaway is, "I'm gonna hate this woman forever and everyone like her."
Forever.
And it's like so beautifully true to the way that like a wide swath of our population thinks and behaves. So that it's a wonderful story, and it's going to be out in Misery Tourism. I forget what I told
Sometime.
next
Yeah,
month,
no,
maybe
I
the
don't
month
even
after. I'm
remember.
not sure.
Yeah. Thank you, William. Yeah.
So I really love the fucking stupid poem piece too.
Mm,
Like this is a wonderfully disarming piece because
mm.
it tells you up front what it's about, and then it convinces you that that's the case, right? Like, oh, this is going to be a silly, absurd story about living in a culvert on the property owned by the guy from the man who stare at goats, and you deliver on that. It's a silly, funny piece about like how nasty and absurd that is and how meaningless and banal it is. And then but you get 3/4 of the way in and it gets fucking profound. And the thing that's wonderful is it gets profound not in the moment, not when your protagonist is in Hawaii surrounded by all this beauty and like all this sexuality and all this like stuff that should be filled with meaning, right? It gets meaningful when he gets back home, when he gets back to California and he gets in the hotel room and like he's hit with the meaning of it all in retrospect. And I think that's like so fucking true to the way that we experience life, right? Like we kind of stumble and grope around and everything feels random and goofy and absurd and silly. And then one day you wake up and you're thinking about something that happened a while ago and you're like, fuck, that was
Mhm.
profound. Fuck, like that was beautiful. And I love it's rare that you have a piece that actually succeeds at like the cliche of like having its cake and eating it too, right? Of being like, this is an absurd, banal, funny piece about how everyone thinks Hawaii is beautiful, and then it becomes a profound piece about how Hawaii is beautiful. So it's a great piece, Tyler. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah, thank you, man. And that's it, guys. I'm gonna look at the chat. I'm gonna make sure, but I think that's it. Yep. All right. Thank you to everyone. I'm going to end this here. As usual, I'm going to keep I'll keep the Zoom room open for a little bit if people want to hang out or whatever after the fact. But I'm going to end the recording now. If you're watching this on YouTube, this has been Misery Loves Company. We do this every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. If you want to come and join us, we tweet out the Zoom link right before we begin from our Twitter account at Misery Tourism, all one word. Thank you to everyone who read tonight. Thank you to Cletus. Thank you to John. Thank you to Rudy. Thank you to Tyler Peterson. Thank you to Jan. Thank you to Derek. Thank you to Tyler Dempsey. We've got 2 Tylers to read tonight. We didn't quite get all 3 Tylers to read, but still. Thank you to everyone who read. This has been a fantastic time. All right, that's it. Thanks, guys. Bye.